Today, we are diving into an absolute geopolitical thriller, and it all went down right on America's doorstep. It's a crazy story about loyalty, about what feels like betrayal, and the brutal, cold math of survival when the entire world order gets flipped on its head.
And I want you to really think about this question. Seriously, put yourself in these shoes for a second. Imagine your closest friend, your protector, the one who has always had your back, suddenly starts looking at you not as a partner, but as, a piece of property. What do you do?
Well, for Canada, one of America's closest allies, the answer was to turn to its biggest rival. You see, for decades, Canada was America's loyal shadow. They were in absolute alignment with Washington, and they saw it as a kind of security insurance. But then something snapped, and that policy of loyalty was replaced by sober resistance and just plain strategic survival. The big question is, what on earth happened?
To really get what a huge deal this is, we've got to rewind the clock a little bit. We have to look at the before times, just to see how deep this US-Canada alliance really was. This was the era of the loyal shadow.
This wasn't just a friendly handshake now and then. No, this was a deep structural thing. Canada was the model ally. They did everything right. They mirrored Washington's tough line on China, going so far as to block Chinese money from key Canadian industries. They took a ton of political heat at home to pump billions into their military, all to hit that 2% GDP target that the US wanted. And their support for Ukraine? That wasn't just about Ukraine. It was basically them paying the premium on their security insurance policy with the United States. They were, to put it bluntly, a highly cooperative, almost fawning ally.
So you have this rock-solid, decades-long friendship. What could possibly break that? Well, the answer didn't come slowly. It came like a lightning strike. A single, jarring moment that was a wake-up call nobody in Ottawa saw coming.
Just try to imagine being the leader of Canada and seeing this. Look, it's one thing to have a tough trade talk. It's a whole other thing when the President of the United States, your #1 ally, is openly talking about taking over Greenland and then posts a meme, a map, that shows your country being swallowed up by his. Suddenly, the threat wasn't some theoretical paper in a think tank. It was right there, on a screen for the whole world to see. It was a giant blinking sign that the US might not be the protector of the old rules anymore, but maybe the one who's going to break them.
And that's when the light bulb went off for Canadian leadership. But it wasn't a good light bulb. It was a terrifying one. This quote from Mark Carney, who ran the banks of both Canada and England, it just says it all. The old strategy of just trying to keep your head down and be agreeable, it was a total failure. Carney realized that when your own country's existence is being questioned by your most powerful friend, being nice doesn't keep you safe. It might actually make you lunch. Canada suddenly realized it wasn't just a guest at the dinner party. It was on the menu.
So the old rulebook is officially in the trash. Everything's changed, and it forced Canada to ask a really scary question. In this new jungle, how do we survive? Their answer was going to shock pretty much everyone. I mean, it's the obvious question, right? This move just seems totally counterintuitive, maybe even a little crazy. Was Canada actually switching sides in some new Cold War? Well, the truth is a lot more pragmatic, and honestly, a lot more ruthless than that.
Okay, this is the absolute key to understanding the whole thing. This pivot had nothing to do with ideology. Canada wasn't saying they preferred Beijing over Washington. It was about pure, simple survival. They were terrified of what they called a structural chronic execution, basically the slow-motion death of their economy and sovereignty by being trapped with a single, dominant, and now totally unpredictable partner. By opening a door to China, Canada wasn't looking for a new boss. It was just looking for bargaining chips.
And this wasn't some panicked last-minute decision. It was a cold, calculated, three-step plan. Step 1. Break the total dependency. They had to punch a hole in the trade wall the US was building around them just to create an escape valve. Step 2. Get real. This wasn't about vague promises. It was about locking down concrete deals to protect vital Canadian jobs, like in farming. And Step 3. They learned from the masters. Canada noticed that both the US and Europe talk a really tough game on China's politics while quietly doing hundreds of billions of dollars in business. So Canada decided it was time to play the same game.
Okay, so that's the plan on paper. But did it actually work? I mean, did this massive gamble really pay off? Well, a trip to Beijing back in January of 2026 gives us a pretty clear answer. You bet it did. And the results weren't some abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. We're talking about real money in the pockets of Canadian farmers and fishermen. China lowered tariffs on Canadian canola oil. Boom, a multi-billion-dollar industry is protected. They did the same for lobster and crab, saving a crucial export market. These deals were an economic lifeline, completely separate from the drama in North America.
All right, and then there's this number, 49,000. What in the world is that? Well, it's the max number of Chinese electric vehicles that Canada agreed to let into its market. Now, on the surface, that just sounds like a trade deal, but it was so much more than that. It was a clever move to take some heat off Canada's own auto industry, sure, but more importantly, it was a massive signal to Washington that said, we can and we will make our own deals now, even in super sensitive areas like EVs. It was a declaration of economic independence.
And they didn't just stop with farms and cars. No, they were building for the long haul. They set up a new long-term plan for working together on oil and natural gas. They created partnerships in green energy and clean tech. And then, and this is a huge reversal, Canada explicitly said that Chinese money was welcome back into its critical energy sector. This wasn't just a trade deal anymore. This was the foundation for a whole new economic reality.
So this is obviously a super high-stakes balancing act. And I'm really curious, what do you all think about this? Is this a brilliant survival strategy, or is Canada just playing with fire here? Let me know what you think down in the comments. All right, now let's dig into what the ultimate goal here really is for Canada.
At the end of the day, all of this, the deals, the risks, it wasn't just about money. It was about fundamentally changing Canada's entire role on the world stage. For way too long, they had been a chess piece. Valuable, strategic, but still a piece being moved around the board by other, more powerful players. The new goal? To become a player themselves.
And here's how they plan to do it. The big idea is to make themselves irreplaceable. So what does that even mean? Well, first, it means they have to stop being seen by Washington as just an asset balance sheet, like a company whose best parts can just be harvested. They do that by diversifying, by building new energy pipelines not just to China, but to the Middle East too, so nobody has them over a barrel. And by using their huge natural resources to grab a critical, can't-be-ignored spot in the global battery supply chain. The endgame here is to become so vital in so many key areas that the great powers, including the United States, have no choice but to treat Canada with caution and with respect.
So we end up right back where we started. In a world with shifting giants, Canada decided to walk a tightrope right between them. Was it a stroke of strategic genius that will secure their future? Or was it a desperate gamble that just trades one kind of dependency for another? Honestly, only time is going to tell. If you found this explainer interesting, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching.